The next screen we do is documents. This is where the system generates all of the documents that is needed for the debt review process. Different parts of these documents will get used through different stages in the process, but they all work on fundamentally the same principle. You will see there are 3 columns worth of documents here. Handle documents on the left, process documents in the middle, and future documents on the right. Handle documents are all documents that are currently due. Process documents will be where we save all documents that have already been generated in the system. When I click a process document, I am not generating a new version of a document, but simply calling up a saved version of an already existing document. Future documents are documents that are either due somewhere in the future or do not have a specific due date, but that I can access. To generate a document, I will go to the document of my choice. Say I want to generate the client's application form. I would generate the form 16B1 welcome pack. I can double click on that document. It will generate it in PDF. First it will ask me for the little checklist, and it's a few tasks that it will print out for the client to do. I can tick which ones are applicable, and any ones that I untick it will not include in the document. Now it will go and generate the PDF document. This document will be populated with your logo, as well as with all the client's details. You can see here it is as per the regulations, with income, expenses, all of the details for the debt, place for him to sign off. Within the to-do list which we have included, things like opening a new bank account, reviewing insurance. It will print out a 12-month budget for the client based on the budget we completed for him. Here you can go right in by different items in the columns next to it, for month 1 to 6 on one page, and then from 7 to 12 on the next, to track his budget and see if what we have given him is actually correct. This is a great tool for our annual review. With this, it will also print for him the receipt that he has applied for debt review as required by the Act. It will also have a little document to cover us in regards to our fees. So this is the fees you'll pay when, which fees are applicable. And then all of this gets generated in duplicate, so that we have one copy for ourselves and one for the client. At the bottom we will have a debit order cancellation form. First, for debit order cancellation for the credit providers, we will say to African Bank, the credit provider, their details, a form which wishes them to cancel the debit order. This we can get the consumer to sign as well, and then we can submit it to the credit provider. Also then we'll have a stop payment on debit order for the consumer's bank account. This is now his Absa bank account as we entered. So you can see here that's the detail for his bank account, and it will tell them the different agreements that we want to stop it. For African Bank, that has a debit order of 140 Rand. That debit order we want him to place a stop payment on. Included in this is generated also a little cover sheet. This is a cover sheet just for the client's paper file to help track all the pieces of paper that we receive for him. Vitally important, on the last 2 pages it prints the debit order mandate for the PDA for this consumer. This debit order mandate then entitles Hyphen to subtract a debit order from the consumer's account. So it enters the account details we gave there, and it's important that the consumer then signs this so that we can keep it on record. The PDA will not ask for this document unless they need it for an investigation, so you won't need it until there's trouble, but it is part of your conditions of your contract with Hyphen PDA that you do store that debit order mandate in a safe place so that they can have access to it when needed. After I've generated a document, you can see that it now appears in process documents and no longer in handle documents. So there is my application form. If I click on it, there's also a details panel at the bottom for it. Here I can see who generated it, when, what the time was, the date, and I can also enter a signed date. Now the signed date is there because for some of the documents that we need the client to sign, the date he signs it might be different from the date we actually generated it. So in here now I can go enter a date that is different from the date when the client signed it. So now I know the client signed on that day, although it was generated on perhaps a different day. And if I go and open up this document now, you'll see it opens it up, but this is not a new version. It opens up a saved version of a document I already created. And the principle is the same for all the other documents. If I ever need some more info in a document, I can click on the blue info eye. And like for 17.1, it will specify that this is the NCA specified form used to notify all the credit providers of the application for debt review. And it needs to be submitted to the credit providers within 5 days of the consumer's application for debt review. So it gives me a nice description on the document and what it's used for. All documents have some secondary steps that happen with them. The application form, for instance, when I generate that, a notice does get sent to the consumer to acknowledge that we have received this application. That notification will either be by email or SMS depending on the preferred communication method that was chosen on the applicant info screen. For certain other documents and steps, the same happens. SMS gets sent when a 17.1 is generated, when a 17.2 is generated, to keep our client up to date and informed. This helps reduce the number of calls that you will receive from a client to make sure something's happening on his file. The next type of document that we're looking at is one of the documents that gets sent to credit providers. For example, for Form 17.1. When we generate this document by double clicking on it in the Handle Documents section of the screen, the document will get generated as a PDF. This document will then get sent via email to all the credit providers for which we have an email record. I want to open this document. As you can see here, here is the saved document, a Form 17.1 for each one of the credit providers. The other one I can see this one was for Absa credit card with their address, the email address that was logged for them on the system. It says from who, the debt counselor that was assigned to the client, and the return contact details. It contains the details of the consumer that we have entered, as well as space for some of the credit providers to enter information relating to the certificate of balance that we would need. If I close this and I go back, I see that I do get a message that says email containing the document was sent to the credit provider Capitec Bank. If there is a credit provider that we do not have an email address for, the system will tell you that for this credit provider we do not have an email address and the document was not sent. This means that you need to generate that document, print it out, and go and obtain contact details for a credit provider so that it can be sent. If I now look, I'll see that my Form 17.1 has moved to the process document section. If I ever do open up that, it will just load a saved version of a document for me. If I need proof that the document was sent, I can go to the bottom and click on the notification button. Click on the notification button, brings up a screen for me where it lists all the proof of sendings that I have. Absa credit card, Payport, Capitec and X being the 4 documents that was sent. You'll see there that it says at the top readable or server. The readable one generates a proof of sending that is a bit more user friendly and readable, while the server one generates an actual log file that records the communication with the email server. That is the actual genuine proof that a document was sent. And depending on which one you would want, you can generate them. I can go to readable, I can select which of the proof of sendings I want to print, and at the bottom click open selected. If I just want to open them all, I can also select open all. If I select open selected, I'll get a PDF document with a proof of email for each one of the credit providers. As you can see, it prints out that this was a proof of email from the Maximus system. It says what type of document was sent, the from address, the to address, the date it was sent, the time, the subject, what document was attached, and then the actual text message that was put inside of the email. And if I scroll down, I'll see that I'll have a page for each one of the proof of sendings that I selected as being what I want to generate. So this one has the 2 pages for the 2 that I selected. If I go to the server one, I'll see it has the same forward for the different credit providers. So if I click on 2 of them and I say open the selected, it will generate PDF containing the proof of sending documents for me. As you can see, the text looks a bit funny, but this is the actual communication with the web server, and you can see here it also says the from, the to address, and the document and the text in the email. And that is a very genuine proof that the email was sent. So depending on which one it is that you need, you can generate the appropriate one. That is how all the documents that go to credit providers work, whether it's the 17.1, the proposal document, 17.2s, or any of the other ones that are listed here. If you need more information on any specific document, see the material in your training manual where the documents are listed with a description of each. One other type of document is, for instance, the 17.1D. Now this document, 17.1D, is specifically there if we need to generate a 17.1 for a credit provider that we might have added later after we did the original one. If I select this one, I get a list of all the credit providers for the client, and then I can say, but for this one I have never done a 17.1. So for instance, I can say, Absa credit card needs another 17.1, or maybe it's one I've added but I didn't originally do one for. Double clicking on Absa credit card then will generate one for that specific credit provider. So I select the credit provider and I get only their 17.1. You can see then there is Absa 17.1, and it says that the email was sent to Absa. That is the basics of doing a document in the Maximus system. Some of the other details we'll come back to later as we need to cover the documents.